In 1911, Walter Burley Griffin entered this plan, drawn by Marion Marnie Griffin, his architect wife and soulmate in nature, democracy and art, in the international competition for the design of the federal capital for the Commonwealth of Australia. On 23rd of May 1912, King O'Malley, Minister for Home Affairs, announced that the entry by Walter Burley Griffin had won the international competition for the design of Australia's national capital. Unfortunately, the core concepts of the plan were little understood by the officials responsible for its implementation. The singular visual concept which Griffin used to describe the harmony of built and natural environments achievable on the federal capital site was that of a natural amphitheatre nestled into the landforms of Mount Ainslie, Mount Pleasant and Black Mountain. The great panorama that encapsulated the Griffin's winning entry was an outcome conceived around the land axis and water axis. The lake was a stroke of genius, for it provided a means of dealing with the floodplain of the river, although bureaucrats resisted its construction for many years. An equilateral triangle lies at the heart of the city. It is formed by three monumental avenues linking the capital and national government group on the south, with the City Hall and the commercial centre north of the lake. As a powerful planning structure, it defines the space allocated to national institutions and integrates the city across the lake. The conical form of Mount Ainslie inspired Griffin's planning structure of the city on the plain at its foot. It spread along the plain between the market centre at Russell, Griffin's intended commercial hub and location for the main railway station, and the municipal centre on City Hill for local government administration on either side of a parkway, a shaded promenade at the disposal of the everyday working life of the city. The defining elements of the Griffin's plan are sustainability and democracy. Capitol Hill is defined by the circle, the perfect form for focus on the capital at the centre and for the radial avenues which reach out in the direction of all the state capitals. Griffin saw the capital as the gathering place for the nation, the place to express national identity and the aspirations of the people. The designs reflect the Griffin's understanding that the built environment should interact with the surrounding natural environment. Griffin envisaged urban density, people movement and public transport in a city of horizontal forms, which preserved a sympathetic scale relationship with the natural landscape and its mountains. The city that was built from the 1950s was finally connected by the western portion of Griffin's Lake, but the era of high modernism dominated planning at this time. The result was that Canberra became a city of fast roads, of dispersed suburbs and of empty space with no cosmopolitan heart. It had become a city dependent on cheap fuel and heavily subsidized services. There had been a diversion away from Griffin's democratic city and its high degree of interaction in everyday life. The ACT became self-governing in 1989, but there is still no City Hall as planned by the Griffins on City Hill. The division of planning responsibilities between national and territory governments has weakened capacity to deliver planning solutions in a coordinated manner. The ACT government pushed for the development of new greenfield sites on one hand, but the NCA plans to surround City Hill with 8-storey buildings and allow gateway buildings that are 15 stories tall beside the main avenues. This would destroy the visual relationship between Capitol Hill and City Hill and obscure vistas to the surrounding mountains. The car-based approach that continues to underlie planning decisions in Canberra is no longer sustainable in today's cities. The vision of the Griffins was built on important principles for a more sustainable city than the one we created in the 20th century. As a guide to the future, we need to revisit their legacy. Griffin envisaged a horizontal city, with an urban density of probably about 5 stories overlooking the central basin of the lake. The relatively densely populated residential suburbs would enable an efficient and extensive tram system utilizing hydroelectric power. Everybody would live within 5 minutes walk of public transport. The main avenues were to be just over 60 meters wide, with a double parkway, the trams and high speedway in the centre, somewhat depressed, so that crossings can be made with a slight ramp. Canberra remains largely isolated from its constituents, the people of Australia. Those who do visit invariably do so by driving long distances or flying, both increasingly unsustainable modes of transport. Griffin's plan was for a main-line railway diverting from the Melbourne to Sydney line at Yass that would provide a fast train connection to these cities. And the line would continue through to Queanbeyan via a causeway beside the lake. The main station was to be located in the commercial centre, and there were to be local stations in the suburbs. Griffin's Canberra was to be a garden city, in which diversity of vegetation was a major feature with a high proportion of Australian trees. Griffin supported the regeneration of the hills by temporary fencing to control stock and rabbits. He planned that each valley of the national capital would be self-sufficient in terms of wastewater treatment, and water was to be recycled for landscape and horticultural use. The past 90 years has seen a constant drift away from the Griffin vision for our national capital. Now, as we celebrate the centenary of their original plan, it is time to appreciate its true meaning and the core elements of their vision that are relevant to the new challenges of the 21st century. The winning entry for Australia's national capital was chosen 100 years ago. The winner today is the same as the winner then. A brilliant design of comprehensive vision. It should not be eroded by poor decision-making. The city of Brasilia, designed as recently as 1956, was inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List in 1987. The Griffin plan for Canberra is one of the greatest planned cities in the world. Canberra is worthy of World Heritage listing. Once the Griffin vision is recognised, its relevant elements just need to be implemented in order to shape Canberra's future in a meaningful and sustainable manner.